guys, this is Misty from the Book Rat, and I'm going to do a quick beach reads review for you today of Prom and Prejudice by Elizabeth Eulberg. Obviously this is for Jane and June, and it's a retelling of Pride and Prejudice. So I'm going to get right into it. I was surprised by how much I enjoyed myself reading this. I don't think it's, an award-winning story by any means. It's just a silly little fluffy piece. But I kept finding myself wanting to go back to it. I read a chapter of it, I say that like I just read a chapter of it, before I went to bed one night just to see what it was like, and I planned to start it the next day. And I ended up reading probably about an hour and a half. Just kept wanting to get to the next thing and see how Elizabeth Eulberg handled that. So it's just really surprisingly readable. And it's fun, in just that kind of fluffy way that, it's fun in the way that Clueless is a fun take on Emma, or Bridget Jones' Diary is a fun take on Pride and Prejudice. And the thing about those books/movies is that they don't have much in common with the story, and I don't even mean because they're modern adaptations. I mean they really strip away all of the key elements of the main character, and make her fairly unrecognizable. Bridget Jones, I think, has very little in common with Lizzie Bennet other than her prejudice against Mr. Darcy. I mean, beyond that, she's not recognizable as Lizzie Bennet, but it's such a fun take on the elements and a cute, sort of quick, fun way to revisit the story that you find yourself enjoying it in spite of that. And this is what that reminded me of. It's just a really fun modern take, even when it's not faithful to the essence of Pride and Prejudice. I thought Elizabeth Eulberg transitioned all of the key plot points pretty well. I especially liked her treatment of Wickham. It made sense, if you're putting him in a modern setting, how you turn him into the same type of scoundrel, and she did that very well, while still making him charming in the beginning. I liked that it was set at a boarding school, and so it was a haves and has-not story, which it is a bit in P&P, though it did have the drawback of having Lizzie being the outsider. Everyone else there is rich and she's a scholarship student, so everyone else knows Darcy and keeps telling her that she's misunderstanding him, and so when it's everybody, you kind of have to question her a bit more, and it makes her less likable and Darcy more so. So I was a little bit hesitant about that. I was kind of left wondering why she was such a bitch. I mean, I don't blame her for not liking Darcy. The reason that, the first big thing that happens at a dance, of course, he slights her when he realizes she's a scholarship student, and so it does make him seem like a real D-bag. And the great thing is that as it goes on, you realize that really they're both prejudiced and it all revolves around money. And I think she's actually more so. She will not give him a chance purely for the fact that he has money, because of the students at Longbourn Academy have been horrible to her. So she associates money with just awful behavior. And actually I want to read you an excerpt of that. This is kind of how you get a good impression of, well, not a good impression of, but a good picture of who Lizzie is and what this story revolves around. No, I didn't have a trust fund. In truth, I didn't really understand what a trust fund was, except that it made people act like jerks. I always found solace in the fact that I was genuinely more intelligent than the majority of my class, and that while they'd gotten in because of birthright, I'd made my way by talent alone. So, even though, yes, I think there is something reminiscent of Lizzie in that statement, Lizzie's much more modest than that, and much more, this Lizzie is very aggressive, so sometimes it was off-putting, especially when, even though the first sort of plot point of Darcy rebuffing her because she's poor, a lot of the rest of the plot points that are the big things that story hinge on, they're kind of shallow, and they leave you wondering, really, this is the big thing that you're gonna complain about or hate this person over. And so that kind of jars you a little bit out of the story and out of liking it as much, but I think it's outweighed by how refreshingly she writes, which is very reminiscent of Pride and Prejudice. You read it and it's just, I found myself smiling. I found myself like waiting eagerly for the next time that Darcy would come into the picture, and there's that same awkwardness and the tension, and you can tell he likes her and he's trying, and there comes a point where I don't know why he's trying, because she's just being a jackass, but it gives the same feel as Pride and Prejudice, even though it's wholly different. So I found myself enjoying this and wanting to read it, and being a couple minutes late coming back from lunch because I wanted to, finish the chapter or whatever it may be, and going into something thinking that it's just going to be disposable fluff. I normally don't overstay my lunch for, so it just is really enjoyable. It might not be the greatest book ever, it might not be the most serious book ever by any means, but it's just fun, it's just cute. So definitely a perfect beach read. So pick it up, Prom and Prejudice by Elizabeth Eulberg.